It's that time of year again, so grab a pumpkin spice latte and join us for a great conversation about current events and seasonality here on Uncommon Sense. Hello, viewers and listeners. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense. I am Joe Grabowski, the VP for Evangelization here at the Society, and I am thrilled, thrilled to be welcoming back, so much so that my voice cracked there, our great co-host whom we've missed while she was out on maternity leave, Grettelyn Darkey, back with us today. Hi, Grettelyn.
Hi, it's great to be back.
It's great to have you back, and of course, you've been back at work for some time now. But with coming off maternity leave and a new little one and childcare and all that, it's just been we haven't been able to find the time to get the recording time set aside and have you back on the podcast. But it's great to see you again, and I'm sure many out there in the audience will be grateful to hear and see you again as well.
It's really great to be back, and no pun, well, sort of pun intended, but this is just the season of life. It's a little tricky, so I'll be back as often as I can be back. But let's talk about seasons because it's I'm experiencing one right now.
Yes, indeed. So here we are. We're at that time of year. It's starting to get colder. This I'll make no secret about this, and as a matter of fact, longtime listeners, viewers of the program will already know this about me. This is just my time of year. Everything about it. I love sweaters. I love football. I love, even though probably the most severe allergy of all the many allergies that I have. And, to give you an idea, this is what's sitting on my desk right now. All the sprays. But fall leaves are the thing that I'm probably most allergic to, and yet I love them. I love it. It's just my time of year. The way, there's two times of year that shadows are lengthening or changing, coming into spring versus when sort of the sun is at this. I don't understand these things. It's at like an oblique
Yeah.
angle to our latitude, because obviously, we're spinning around, and so it's always coming up over the horizon, but it's sort of the angle that it's hitting you, and that's what makes for our seasons. I think, correct me.
Sounds
Any
right. Someone in the
any
comments correct us.
any astrologists or meteorologists out there who can say like you don't know what you're talking about, feel free. But I think that that's the case. Um, and there's something about the light. There's something about the quality of autumn
Mm,
dusk
mm,
light, especially. Also sunrise, the period of sunrise. But man, it's that early evening, the gloaming, as it's
mm.
called in poetry, that is just such a wonderful thing. It makes the greens greener, it makes the golds golder. It's just yeah, it's a time of year, and it's lovely. And I thought we would take this opportunity to kind of speak about that and speak about what it means that seasonality is part of life, that it happens, that it's and yeah, of course, as with everything, us silly humans go and commercialize the heck out of everything. And so, sadly, just as with Christmas time, we're going to be feeling worn out about Christmas before Advent even begins, inevitably, because of what the drugstores are doing. I started seeing Halloween candy in the drugstore aisles already back in August.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, I get it. I get it. Maybe a bit too much of pumpkin spice, but pumpkin spice is the spice of life. There is something to this that we need to talk about. And yeah, and any initial thoughts before we get into it here, Gretelyn?
Oh, I'm with you. I love listening to you wax poetical on fall because I feel the same. I'm pretty even at this point in my life, melancholic and phlegmatic, but the melancholic in me just loves the fall. And yeah, it's really I'm an apple person. We've talked about this before, I think. Joe's on the pumpkin side, but I'm on the apple side. But fall is So if you like poetry, Joe and I have talked about this too. Like we were talking about what we should discuss, and one of the things that came up was like, well, fall is the time for the romantic poets. That's when everybody feels the spirit, but it seems like Chesterton didn't really have a ton to say about fall, which is kind of a bummer, because as you say, it's such a vibrant season. We know Chesterton loved color. He loved his sensory, experiences, and fall is definitely just so ripe for that, but we don't have a lot from Chesterton about the fall. It's more Christmas or, spring.
Springtime, yeah, summer.
Yeah.
I suspect maybe it has something to do with the latitudes. I
Mm,
don't know, and I think maybe, particularly in London, fall was a time of fogs,
mhm.
perhaps. So,
Oh, it's
again,
pretty.
viewers, listeners, please illuminate our ignorance if we're just kinda spitballing here. But, yeah, or maybe he's just of a different, disposition. I think that, I am comparatively with Chesterton, much less the sanguine and more the melancholic, and therefore maybe it's just that this is sort of my uh, it's more something that appeals to me.
Mm,
Um, but you know, to get back to this kind of broader point, why are we talking about this on a Chesterton podcast? Given that Chesterton doesn't have anything to say or that much to say specifically about this time, um, because I think it relates to the Chestertonian concept of what we could call a theology of time and place, a theology of the incarnation
mm,
and where that incarnation is present to us and all of the forces that pull us out of that. And I think that, you know, um, being pulled out of a sense of the seasons, being pulled out of a sense of the way that time is passing and what nature means. I may have brought this up. I'm sure that I have in a previous episode of this podcast, Grettelyn, but it's not from Chesterton. It's from T.S. Eliot, who has a great line in one of his poems. What is the late November doing? What's it doing? And we don't think of November as having an agency that way, but what he means is like what this means something
mm,
that these leaves are dying and they're falling from the trees, and that God does this to us every year is that to wake us up, shake us, and let us know these cycles of the seasons, the cycle of nature, birth and dying, conceiving, rearing children, the fledglings flying the nest, all of this stuff means something. And I think in our mechanized world, in our world that Chesterton railed against in his distributist writings about how we're going to lose sight of some of these things.
mm,
That beautiful late light that I was talking about is something that we stuck in our office with fluorescent drop ceiling lights above us all day long from maybe dark till dark at
mm,
certain times of years. We don't get to see that light. Whether it's the cold light of winter or it's the beautiful gloaming light of early autumn sunsets or late autumn sunsets, um, we're robbed of some of that. So
mm.
yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
No, that's really beautiful. It's we both live in Pennsylvania. I live in Western PA. Joe lives in Eastern PA, and lately it's just been absolutely perfect. I don't know how it's been for you, but this has been just the most glorious weather. And I feel so
Mhm.
bad for my husband in his drop ceiling office, doing his duty, and missing out on this. So it's, yeah, I think there is um, a unity with nature, not to be too hippie about it, but a unity with nature that is lost, when we put too much pavement and too many walls between us and nature.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
And again, the artificial light too, I think is one
yes.
of those things that, you know, so much of the built cultural, uh, the cultural instinct, even as is reflected in things like the liturgy, but in all of our traditions, why we do bobbing for apples and things, bring greens into the house at a certain times and seasons of years,
Mm,
seasons of year. all of that is connected to a nature that now we have been more strikingly divorced from
Mhm,
because you noticed it before the age of the electric light when it was
mhm,
gas, but even before that when it was, candles and tallow that you
mhm,
were burning, like, you and just a fireplace on your hearth, you noticed that it was getting dark and cold,
mhm,
and you noticed what Eliot asked us to notice.
mhm,
Oh, nature is doing something.
mhm.
Nature's doing something, and the author of nature is telling us something
Well,
by
it's
what it's doing.
yeah, and thinking about that sort of in a more liturgical way, there's that interesting connection between late November or I'm sorry, early November and thinking about the dead, thinking
Mhm.
about, and this is obviously the time of year when things die, all the animals go into hiding and sleep for a long time, which sounds really nice coming off of maternity leave. Um, but this whole idea of everything kind of dying, and then very interestingly, we're like you said before, we're gonna turn right around and look at Advent. So there's this sort of really cool juxtaposition of everything is dying, and then let's get ready for new life, the newest of
Yeah.
new life, the author of life. So what do you think of that? What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, 100%. I think that, again, we're probably repeating ourselves for the longtime listeners, but, this is hey, this happens yearly, so to talk about it yearly is also only natural, and I think that we we do ourselves a disservice if we think, "Oh, we've already covered this last year." And so, at the risk of repeating ourselves, um, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could live in the Southern Hemisphere,
Mhm.
and get as much of the pith out of the liturgical calendar. I really don't, and I wonder what it would be like. But we definitely talked about this. Like, what would it be like celebrating Christmas at the height of summer?
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be. I get it. It's not the important thing. It's not the essential thing, but it does mean something. And so in this time of this trajectory from really around the time of Our Lady of Sorrows, the Exaltation of the Cross, and then you had the Ember Days of September, then you had, uh, you know, the Feast of the Archangels and things like that, and you're starting to think towards, the end times, you know, Michaelmas and Michaelmastide, and you're starting to think about the battle at the end of time and remember the 4 last things, and nature's reinforcing it. Everything around you is starting to die, and it's a giant memento mori that
Mhm.
nature is offering us, and that's just such an important thing. And I'm talking about it in this way, memento mori, oh, this should be depressing and dour. No, it doesn't need to be that way. This is the dance macabre. This is what the Middle Ages embraced. As nature, we tend to think that the time of hospitality and socialization is like summertime. Um, when you were working in fields and you were out in the hot sun all day, the porch might have been an escape from the stifling heat of the house, but now, especially in like American culture, porches and yards for barbecuing and stuff like that, they become kind of our quintessential social space. But really, the hearth, the home, the table in the home were even more so the kind of quintessential gathering space. And so this does become the season of hospitality. Why? Because nature is becoming inhospitable. And as nature becomes more and more inhospitable, you make for that hospitality in the home.
Mm.
Um, and so just another reason that I love this season. I want to get I want to get to Chesterton though, but any last thoughts kind of on our general waxing poetical here about seasons and
Sure. Yeah. So
things.
so I think this can tie back to Chesterton. I mean, just before things become inhospitable, nature is at her most hospitable, right? You get the harvest, lots to be grateful for. So there's this sort of gathering in, as you say, of the harvest, of people to share the harvest, and kind of there you are all around the table. I don't know, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. It always has been. Um, just because it's there's no pressure, it's just about family and food, and I like both of those things. So, it's just this kind of low-key way to celebrate normal things, and I think that's a very Chestertonian thing to do.
Yes, indeed, and I know that, there's sometimes a tendency to be snide about Thanksgiving in particular, uh, and here we are, we're in September, we're talking about this, some will say prematurely, but a thing, it's worth preparing your heart and your mind for. Can we make Thanksgiving our own? And sure, Thanksgiving is a secular event. It's not a holiday in the strict sense of the word. What it is a festival. And there were plenty of festivals that were not on the church calendar, that were not necessarily, uh, mandated days of observation upon a time. And so there's nothing wrong with festival. As a matter of
Mm,
fact, quite the opposite. We need festival as part of our lives, and precisely because we have lost in modern culture sort of that the harvest feast, the
mm,
bringing in the brewing of the Bach beer, the all these things that get done at this time of year. All the more reason to make time for it and to enter into it with deliberateness.
mm,
Now, I said I wanted to talk about Chesterton, and I want to talk in particular about one of the few rare glimpses he does give us of kind of a comment upon this time of year specifically, right? And it's not what we might expect. So he writes about it in terms of the silly season. Now, what is the silly season? This is not likely a term that will be familiar to most of our viewers and listeners. And to be honest with you, I don't know whether I had heard it before. I think I had been familiarized with kind of the concept before, but I don't think that I necessarily had heard this exact phrase. But Grettelyn, would you like to kind of take a stab at filling us in as to like what is he talking about here with the silly season that he's
sure.
going to attack? Yeah,
Yeah, so it's interesting, and it's kind of his Chestertonian twist of attacking himself a little bit, and because this is a journalist term, right? This is
right.
the newspapers would call the silly season the holiday, the vacation time, the time when people are gonna do their beach reading, right? So who cares? We don't have to talk about things. Parliament's not sitting, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and so if Parliament's not sitting, then nothing is important, right? This sort of idea that politics are the only thing that matters, and so let's talk about something ridiculous, like, is marriage even a thing? Should we get married anymore? It's one of the things that he says, and, immediately us Chestertonians are like, "That's the silly subject?" Um,
Right.
yeah.
Well, it's brilliant because I love it's typical Chestertonian paradox because he 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 takes to task the journalistic profession because they would say that this period of kind of mid-August through September when Parliament went out of session and they went on recess. So in American terms, we could refer to this as recess periods when the Congress goes on recess, or perhaps slow news cycles. You could think of that. You could think of perhaps non-election years relative to election years, right?
Mm,
And this becomes the way that we kind of it becomes a temptation for how we think about the momentousness of what's going on.
mm,
And Chesterton, in his brilliant way, pulls the kind of reversal and says, no, the important things are those things that are going on when you're not distracted by all that. This is actually the best season where because you don't have interfering politicians and bureaucrats and things like that, when Congress goes on recess, for example, and you don't have to hold your breath and worry about what stupid thing the Congress is going to do next, that's when you can actually focus on the things that matter. The
mm,
things of the home, the things of normal day to day life that we so take for granted and that we miss because we have our noses, well, in his day, buried in a newspaper. In our day, a fortiori, how much more buried, in endless doom scrolling.
Mhm.
And I love this. I loved to see Chesterton kinda carrying this banner. It's a familiar trope from his writings from places like What's Wrong with the World, right? Where he kind of points out that, like, politics is sort of the guilty hobby interest of men, and it's not the important thing that it's made out to be, and that's why in What's Wrong with the World, he argues that women shouldn't sully themselves with being interested in it. Um, but but it's all of a piece. It's consistent for Chesterton to say, "No, these aren't the important things. The important things are how your garden is coming in
Mm,
and building that toy theater that you've been putting off or whatever it happens to be."
mm.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Mm,
Well, so how does this kinda help us as sort of a, you know, a good corrective to our day and age? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and that's
mhm,
why we decided to go with this topic. I'm one of those people who, you know, has as much as what I was saying at the top of the episode, I'm sort of eschewed because I don't like the over commercialization of things.
mhm,
So I don't do the pumpkin spice latte.
mhm,
Um, I was at Wawa the other day. Wawa, for those, who aren't from the Northeast, I guess it's down all the way to Florida now, but anyway, Wawa is like a convenience store cum gas station, famous for its, ready-made foods and such, and of course, coffee. And, I was in Wawa picking up a couple of essentials the other day, and I decided to get a coffee, and of course, they had the pumpkin spice there,
yeah,
or some sort of autumn blend, and, the regular brew was out, so it was, like, kinda waiting refill, and so I just went with it, and I gotta say, I loved it. I I was really delighted. I was like, "Oh, this makes a nice change." I It tastes artificial and
Well,
you know?
it's funny how that works because, I think Chesterton might be okay with that because, yes, there's some over commercialization, right? Um, this summer, this is a bit of a side note, but again, it applies. So this summer, my sister got my son like a shaved ice maker and all
Mm,
the syrups, and they are so gross.
yeah.
But I tried a blue raspberry, and it was like right back to my grandpa's swimming pool when I was
Mhm.
6 years old. And so there's something to be said about tying a taste or a smell or something into a season and allowing yourself to be connected in that way. I think Chesterton was very much all about that. So,
Yeah, and, if there is a fault to it, and we can think of, vapid yuppies and other people like that who are, they're just so excited for this time of year, and maybe they're prematurely wearing scarves and everything else. Um,
guilty.
and, we get it. I get it. I get why we would maybe want to look askance at that, but the very serious, busy people in their smart suits who are
Mm,
rushing around with their nose buried in their phone, checking their stock market, uh,
mhm,
returns and everything else, aren't they a little bit ridiculous too?
mm,
And, you know, I if in your concrete jungle that you live in, you can't take time to stop and smell the roses, you know, at least at certain times of year, you walk into your Starbucks on your daily routine, and there's a little bit of a different scent wafting through the air there, and if
mm,
that's what it takes, if that's the toehold on the beach of sacramentology, so be it.
mm,
Right?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and again, to anchor you to real things, there's Chesterton has a great criticism of, uh, politics as an idol, right?
Mhm.
So we want to avoid not like you can't be involved, you should stay informed, but there's a certain sense where you just don't have to know, like, the color of Nancy Pelosi's toenails, like, it's just not that important, right? So, there's too many there's a list the idea of daily news almost creates this problem, right? And we don't even have daily news anymore, we have, like, hourly news. So trying to find news this often, there's gonna be ridiculous things, and it can make you feel more invested in things that are far removed from you than you probably should be. There are actually studies that show that people who are more involved in the news than they should be have higher anxiety.
Mm.
No surprises there. So I think Chesterton was very in tune with this idea of being more into what God is showing you in nature than what is happening in the news, in politics.
Yeah, and that catastrophization that we can all engage in, and as a full disclosure, as the recording of this episode, we're very much in the midst of a very dark news cycle, and that's part of the other impetus for wanting to lay down this recording because look, I get it. I get why people could be made anxious, but we go to our guy, G.K. Chesterton, who over a century ago was already warning that, look, this is how they get you.
Mhm,
This is in What's Wrong with the World. He says that, uh, the primary force used by tyranny, or the primary force that motivates and is how Hudge and Gudge keep Jones sort of in his place, is crisis.
mm,
And whether it's manufactured crisis or a real crisis, and look, there's always crises going on, but we're just inundated with them in the
mhm,
same way that Chesterton remarks that the newspapers rush to tell us that Lord Jones is dead when we didn't even know that Lord Jones was alive.
mhm,
And maybe there were things going on in Lord Jones's daily life that were more worthy of comment, and they get passed over because that doesn't sell newspapers. And
mm,
so we just have to I mean, it's the analogy, the metaphor could not be more perfect, as sort of a judgment upon us that we're literally looking at our entire world so much through a frame, through a screen, you know? Whether you're staring at your computer screen right now or you're staring at your phone screen right now, or you have that other method of filtration on, which is the earbuds, and you're listening to us, and
mm,
thanks for doing that. But when you're done, please take them out and hear the birds. Uh, this is the thing. It's We can rationalize, and even if it's not podcasts and current events, you know, even if it's an audiobook, even if
mhm,
it's beautiful music and Palestrina that we're wearing when we're out on our jog, don't rob yourself to hear the great symphony of just creation and nature that's going on around us, and you can still get access to it if you find ways to make the time. So
mm. Yeah, I've heard, some people even say that, the dishes, the kids talking in the other room, the vacuum, like, these things are all, like, they're part of life, and to a certain extent, we should be absorbing them. Um,
yeah.
yeah. It's I have a very loud life, so silence is my mother-in-law calls it ear aspirin, and I take that when I can get it. I do listen to my podcasts that have your ear aspirin too, which is just the normal things going on. You gotta absorb
Mhm.
that too.
Yeah, so, I hope, viewers, listeners, that this is sort of a way that you can start to just approach, this season,
Mm,
and rename your seasons. Take This is another thing that I wanted to get to here, which is that our calendar gets dictated for us
mhm,
by work, by increasingly, especially if you're parents out there with children, and it's great. I love that they play all the sports games and all the other things, you know, but let's just be frank about it. There's probably even too much of that, and we all hate to say, "Oh, you know, we need to cut some of these things out." But at least, at the very least, pray and discern whether or not, you know, you need 3 soccer leagues a year, or
mhm,
whatever it happens to be, if that's if that's the ideal fulfillment of a well-rounded life. Um, yeah, just, take ownership of your calendar, and I'm
mm,
gonna say more about that, but in a second, but Grettelyn, any thoughts on kind of that notion of how we can take ownership of the seasons a little more?
No, I love that. As a mom, I think there's a lot of things you can do in the home. We've had some experts on that on our show before. But even, find some of your favorite saints. I mean, for Saint Sebastian's last year, I got a bunch of like spearable food and I got some little spears and we did, my kids got to eat their food with arrows and they loved it. They had the little cheese balls and tomatoes and whatever. So silly little things like that. We'll have to have Jen Finke on again sometime. She does all kinds of stuff for this. But
Mhm.
I think you every year, Joe, you bring up, what to do on St. John the Baptist's beheading day. You don't eat with a
Yep.
plate because
No plates.
no
Get the plate. Yep.
plates. These are silly. These sound silly, right? But this is how you build that culture. This is the acculturation that you can engage in. And if you don't have kids, I mean, Joe, you're a great example of this. You do this kind of stuff with your friends and people. You don't have to be a kid. You shouldn't have to be a kid to enjoy fun cultural things. So, yeah, take the seasons and take them back. Take
Yeah.
them back.
In fact, I feel very much called to it in precisely the degree that a lot of my friends are too harried and busy in the world to be able to do this themselves. And so
Mm,
I guess on the one hand, I'm a terrible enabler because I'm sort of picking up the slack and creating these occasions for them. But I do gently try to apply the paternal correction and say, look, easy for me to say, granted, because I don't have those obligations, but I can still kind of observe objectively and say, uh, I think we all want that. We all want that sense of agency to to an extent that we can put first things first and focus on the important things and uh, involve ritual in our
mhm.
lives in a small r sense of the word. Rituals are so important. Um, and they used to be really the hallmark of kind of a well-lived life. These festivals, again, small
Yeah.
lowercase f, not the big church feasts and the now, of course, we have this wonderful way that we can attach everything to a saint's day, and we can pay attention to the ember tides and the rogation days and whatever else it happens to be if we want to. But it could also just be much more mundane than that. So when I say take ownership over your calendar, you know, if if you would drink pumpkin spice latte, by all means, don't drink it like any other latte, right?
Mm,
Drink it ritualistically.
mm.
And I know that that sounds heck, I'll go further. I'm gonna lean in here, Grettelyn. Drink it sacramentally. Whoa, what are you talking about, Joe? Yeah, I mean it. I genuinely mean it. Like, drink it in a way what the sacraments are sacramentals are.
Mm,
Sacraments are obviously, signs of grace that convey grace. Um, Sacramentals are visible signs of unseen grace that just point us towards the grace. That
mm.
they're not the vehicle uh, and instantiation of the grace per se in the same way that a sacrament is. So, is there a sacramental use of pumpkin spice latte? I think there absolutely is. If it's part of if it gives you a memento mori, if it reminds you that there's something different about this season
Mm,
and that all things must end, and that the pumpkins that are not picked from the patch will very soon rot on the ground, and those that aren't used to bake will be carved into simulacra of skulls with lights in them and be all over our porches
mm.
very soon. And you
Well,
can
here
hate that if you want to hate that. I know there's some haters on Halloween, but memento mori, man. That's what the time of year. So if you can do that, do it.
yeah,
Sorry.
and no, just to piggyback off of that, there's, Chesterton would say and has said better than I'm gonna say it right now, that, you feel the most alive right before, right after you escape death. So this is the moment. This is the moment. It's when things are I think this is part of it for those of us who love the fall. Summer's kind of this sleepy season, right?
Hmm.
And then it gets cold and crisp and you kind of wake up again and you feel you start to feel like, you don't just wanna sleep on a beach all day. So, um, yeah, so take this
Yeah.
opportunity to be alive before everything dies.
Yeah. Dog days of summer are over. Now we're getting into it now. There's the hours of daylight are receding from us and such that we want to grasp, we wanna chase after them and grab them, and this is Chesterton's point, limitation begets that appetite. When we're losing something, when it is receding from us, that's what spurs us, to not take it for granted, which is why I just think this is, the great time of because it's easy to take for granted the hours of daylight, um,
And when we
in the high summer period, but,
yeah.
again, as it's receding, this is why eclipses are, such a thing in the ancient world, right? Because that was, like I said, like, whoa, you notice it when it's gone. You notice it when it's going away.
Yeah. And in this age when we have access to everything all the time, it is you kind of have to self-deprive.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
nature is a natural way. Nature naturally does that for us, but, yeah, you wouldn't appreciate your pumpkin spice latte if you drank it all year. I promise you wouldn't. Um So,
Yeah.
you gotta put these things away and then take them out again. I tried one time to have peppermint hand wash for all year, and I got really sick of it. I wanted it just for Christmas. So, there's these things that you can, it's the wisdom of the church is to, eat fast, feast kinda thing, and to let things happen at their proper time and their proper season, and everything is
Yeah.
actually better that way.
Amen. And this is why pumpkin spice is, I think, the great metaphor for this because, like all spices, it should be used to season. It shouldn't be sort of the main dish.
Mhm.
You were talking about not appreciating it if it's all year. I got in an argument with an Italian friend once who was insisting that no, they just really like garlic. I'm like, you
Mm-mm.
don't have a better appreciation of garlic than I have because you've dulled your taste buds to it because you're using so much of it all the time.
Yes.
So, yeah, and this is a known fact. We know that this is how alliums, work in the system. Onions and garlic, you can become to a certain extent desensitized to them. And therein lies the lesson for life that desensitization, sensitization, and then waking up to what is most important, that
Mhm.
our calendar is not the kids' sports calendar, it's not our work calendar, it is not, God forbid, the political seasons calendar and whether or not it's an election year and who's running for what office. As important as all those things are, um, what is the late November doing? What is nature and the author of nature trying to communicate to us at this and in all seasons of our life?
Mhm.
So I do want to put in a plug. We I don't have it will be live on our website soon if it is not already by the time that you are hearing this episode. But as part of this taking ownership of your calendar and making the calendar your own and entering into the seasons of life in a deliberate way and not just being sort of passive recipients of them, we're going to offer a special opportunity this coming Advent for you to join us in building your own Advent calendar. And unlike a normal Advent calendar where you open a door and find a gift, our Advent calendar that you can get from our website, and we'll send it to you, uh, that and participate in this sort of daily reflection that we're going to offer. Our Advent calendar is going to be blank spaces where you write in a gift that you've been given. You write in a gift for which you are grateful, all in anticipation of greeting Christ at Christmas time and going to the giver of all good gifts, the great King, who is the greatest gift of all, and saying to him, "This is my gift to you, my gratitude, my thanks," which is just quintessentially Chestertonian, right?
Mm.
The thanks are the highest form of praise, and so we're going to give God a deliberate act of thanks for all of the gifts that we get to list and build up. And it's kind of like a reverse 12 days of Christmas. In anticipation of Christmas, we're just going to build a growing litany on the first day of Advent, this is what I'm thankful for. Day 2, day 3, and so forth, until we have this big list that we can thank God for and just recognize all the good things in our life. So please do check out our website, look for that, and make that at least one way that you can deliberately make the calendar work for you rather than vice versa this coming Advent.
Wow, I love it. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
It is indeed. Well, any closing thoughts, Grettelyn, before we wrap up here today?
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking about leaves and, walking outside, and I like to pray and walk in the fall. That's, like, my favorite thing to do, and, last year, there were so many beautiful leaves, and I was stepping on them, and there's this feeling of, like, wow, like, there's these little love notes everywhere from God, and I'm just stepping
Yeah.
on them. It's just I don't know, just, it's very fanciful, whatever, the silly poet in me, but just, take the moments that God is giving you. Yes, he gives you the flowers, they're beautiful, but even in death, he's giving us things that are beautiful. So, I don't know, just keep your eyes open, be aware.
Yeah. Those were the priests one time who there's Japanese maple in the churchyard, and coming out from mass on the way back to the rectory, uh, the Japanese maple had dropped all those bright crimson leaves,
Mm.
and he jokingly said, "Oh, look, they laid out the red carpet for me." And I thought to myself, "You've no idea how profound that is."
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
You could like, here's a priest walking, back to his rectory after mass, with the priestly, well, anyway.
With God inside him, yeah, it's gorgeous, I
Yeah,
love it.
just take that, listeners, and pray with that one if nothing else. Well, thank you, Gretel, and it's a great thing to have you back, and it's been a great conversation.
Thank you, same, it's good to be back, and I'll be back when I can be back. It's a busy season here at the Chesterton Society too.
Yes, it sure is,
So,
it sure is. So pray for us, dear viewers and listeners. Please like, subscribe, do all those things. Make sure that you're following us here at the podcast. Hit the bell to get notifications. We also have coming up our weekly online rosary, which will be starting up in October. So make sure that you hit the notification bell if you want to receive uh, a notice on your phone every time that we go live to pray the rosary, or you could always just catch those videos afterwards and pray along with us. We just have such an exciting season ahead of us, and we want you to enter into that season and invite a couple of friends along to do that with you, because as we know, Chesterton is always better with friends. Until next time, God bless and enjoy your pumpkin spice. Cheers.